Do you ever notice that even on days when you didn't really do that much, you still feel drained? Like your energy just isn't there when you need it? Not procrastination, not lack of motivation. I'm talking about when your body just isn't giving you what you expect it to. And most of the time, that's not because you're doing too much. It's because your energy isn't being managed in a way that keeps it stable. What you're actually dealing with is your physical system. It's basically how your body manages energy, recovery, and performance. And when that's off, even simple things start to feel harder than they should. We'll take a look at how to check this in a minute. But first, you need to see what's really causing it. So when this starts happening, most people try to fix it from the outside. They'll get more sleep, they'll drink more caffeine, just try to push through it. And sometimes, that helps, but for a little while. And then it shows up again. And this is usually where it gets misread because it doesn't feel like something is wrong. It just feels inconsistent. Some days it's there, other days it just doesn't hold. And you don't always know why, because what's actually happening here isn't just fatigue. It's instability in how your energy is being sustained throughout the day. And once that starts happening, everything begins to require more effort than it normally would. And this is where it starts to shift. Because this isn't just about how you feel, it's about how your body is being managed. Most people hear physical wellness and think working out more, eating better, getting more sleep. Yeah, and those things do matter. But that's not really what this is. Physical wellness is how your body manages your energy throughout the day, how it recovers from effort, and how consistently it can support what you're trying to do. And once you look at it that way, something becomes really clear. It's not just about what you do, it's about how well your system supports it. Because your physical system isn't neutral. It's either helping you stay consistent, or it's quietly creating strain that makes everything harder than it needs to be. And once that system is working the way it should, this is where physical resilience starts to show up. Not in a big dramatic way, but in how your day actually feels. When your physical system is supporting you, your energy holds up. You're able to focus without constantly fighting fatigue. You get through your day without feeling like everything is taking more effort than it should. And when you do get tired, you recover from it. You reset. You don't carry that fatigue into the next day. And that's the part most people overlook. It's not just about having energy. It's about being able to sustain it and get it back when you need to. Now, compare that to when your system isn't supporting you. Your energy drops off and it doesn't really come back. You try to push through it, but everything feels heavier than it should. Focus becomes harder to maintain. And instead of recovering, you carry that fatigue into the next day. And that's where it starts to really build up, because now it's not just one off day, it's a pattern. This is what it actually looks like in real life. You start the day fine, but your energy drops halfway through. And most people assume they just need more caffeine. But in reality, their energy wasn't stabilized to begin with. Or you try to focus, but physical fatigue keeps interfering. And that's not a focus issue. That's your body running out of usable energy. Or you push through the day, but by the end, you're completely drained. And what's happening there isn't just effort. It's a lack of recovery catching up. Once you start to see that pattern, the next question becomes, where is this actually breaking down? Because it usually doesn't happen all at once. It shows up in specific areas, sometimes in ways you don't immediately connect. And none of it feels extreme, but it keeps repeating. That pattern is the signal. And this is exactly why having a way to actually look at this matters. Because without it, you're just guessing. And most people guess wrong. So as we go through this next part, pay attention to which one feels the most familiar to you. Where it usually starts breaking down, first, is energy and fatigue. It's there at the start of the day, but it doesn't hold up. You get those drops where your focus fades, your energy dips, and everything slows down. And most people try to fix that in the moment, instead of asking why it keeps happening. And when that keeps happening, it usually starts to carry into something else, your ability to recover from it. The second is sleep and recovery. You get through the day, but you don't really reset from it. You wake up still feeling tired, or you carry that fatigue forward day after day after day after day. This is where it starts to shift, because it's not just tiredness anymore, it's accumulation. And once that builds up, your body starts to feel it in other ways too, especially in how much you're actually moving. Which brings us to our third part, movement. Not that you're not trying, just not moving consistently. You sit more than you move. Your body feels slower, heavier, less responsive throughout the day. And over time, that lowers your overall energy without you really noticing it. And even when you are moving, there's another piece that can quietly throw things off: how you're fueling your body. Your energy doesn't stay consistent. It spikes and drops depending on how you eat or when you don't. You might feel fine for a while and then suddenly crash. And it's easy to miss that connection when you're just trying to get through the day. And underneath all of this, there's one thing that ties it together, whether you're actually noticing it early enough. You feel the fatigue, but you ignore it. You push through it. You don't adjust until it gets too strong to ignore. And by that point, it's already built into something bigger. And the important part is you don't need all 5 of those to be off. Even one of them can create instability in your energy, which then affects everything else. And this is where most people go in the wrong direction, because when something feels off, the instinct is to try to fix it quickly. You push through it, you try to stay disciplined, you try to power your way back into consistency, and sometimes that works, well, for a little while, and then it comes back. And this is the part that doesn't get noticed. The problem isn't that you're not doing enough, it's that your system isn't supporting what you're trying to do. Because this isn't about effort, it's about how your energy is being managed throughout the day. And when that's off, doing more doesn't fix it. It just adds more strain on top of it. So instead of stabilizing your energy, you end up making the pattern worse. And over time, that's where fatigue starts to feel constant instead of occasional. And once that pattern keeps repeating, this is where it starts to turn into something bigger. Because it's not just about having a low energy day anymore. Your energy becomes unpredictable. Some days feel manageable. Other days feel harder than they should. And you don't always know why. And that's where this starts to shift again. Because now it's not just fatigue, it's inconsistency. And when your energy is inconsistent, everything else starts to feel that. Your focus becomes harder to maintain. Your decisions take more effort. Even simple tasks start to feel heavier than they should. And over time, you start to compensate for that. You push a little harder. You try to stay on track. You try to keep up. But underneath that, the strain is still building. And that's what most people miss too. Because burnout doesn't just usually come from one big moment. It builds from patterns like this: unstable energy, incomplete recovery, and repeated strain that never fully resets, until eventually it's not just harder to perform, it's harder to stay consistent at all. And this is exactly why most people don't catch it early. Because when you're in the middle of it, it just feels like a normal day that's a little off. You don't always see the pattern while it's happening. You just feel the effects of it. And that's where having a way to actually step back and look at it clearly makes a difference. Because once you can see where your energy is unstable, where recovery isn't happening, where strain is building, everything starts to make more sense. And more importantly, you're not guessing anymore. You can actually identify what's supporting your performance and what's quietly working against it. And that's exactly what the free physical wellness audit is designed to do. Look, if you want to go through this for yourself, the physical wellness audit is available on the Great Discovery platform. You can create a free account, sign in, and start going through it right away. I've also linked it directly in the description so you can find it easily. And once you start looking at this clearly, you'll probably notice something else. This doesn't just stay in one area. Your physical system affects how you think, how you focus, and how consistently you show up. And in the next video, we're going to look at another area that might be affecting you in a completely different way. But it's just as important when it comes to staying consistent and avoiding burnout. I'll see you in that one.